Welcome to Season 3 of Adventures in Compliance. In this season, we are reviewing all of the Sherlock Holmes stories which are collected in the work The Return of Sherlock Holmes. It is a collection of 13 detective stories written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, marking the reappearance of the brilliant detective Sherlock Holmes after his apparent death in The Final Problem, which ended Season 2 and was the last story in the memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. The collection spans various intriguing cases and mysteries that Holmes and his loyal friend Dr. Watson tackle. First, a word from this month's sponsor of the Compliance Podcast Network, Ethico.
In the intricate world of ethics and compliance, each second is precious, and slow case closures are more than just delays, they're missed opportunities. Enter Ethico. Our solution revolutionizes case management, cutting case closure times in half and turning every challenge into a chance for improvement. Imagine a workspace where efficiency and compliance coexist harmoniously. Don't just dream of faster resolutions, make it your reality. Visit ethico.com/CPN today to book a demo and dive into our exclusive white paper by Tom Fox, 2023, The Year in Compliance. Empower your team with the tools they deserve.
Today we take up the 8th story in The Return of Sherlock Holmes on the adventures of Charles Augustus Milverton, the most deliciously evil character in the entire Sherlock Holmes oeuvre. If you enjoyed this episode, you've enjoyed this series, or you just like stories about Sherlock Holmes, I hope you will subscribe or rate and review to this podcast, wherever great podcasts are listened to. Of all the common criminals Holmes tangled with over the years, very few filled him with as much loathing as Charles Augustus Milverton, a man who described himself as the king of blackmailers, although Holmes preferred a different epithet, the worst man in London. This story is around a conclusion to a transaction in which the debutante Lady Eva Blackwell entered into with Milverton. She had to pay him £7,000 or he would publish letters that could arouse some scandal enough to destroy her marriage, upcoming marriage, and her happiness forever. She, however, can afford to pay no more than £2,000, and when that is the offer that Holmes gives to Milverton. Milverton turns it down. He's not a man to be trifled with, after all. If he offers one victim a discount, well, they all may want a discount. And then where would he be? No, if Lady Eva cannot afford a couple of grand, $1,000 more, then we'll see how she feels after the letters are made public. This is the point where Holmes and Lady Eva should have simply gone to the police, explained what happened, and convicted Milverton for blackmail. But that would involve the letters being read by the police, the news of their contents slipping out, and the eruption of a public scandal involving the good lady. But Holmes has an alternative. He must turn into a criminal himself. Disguised as a plumber, he visits Milverton's home and gets to know his routine. He cultivates the friendship of Milverton's housemaid and soon becomes engaged to her, while remaining confident that her heart belongs to another, and he will be freed of the obligation soon enough. He discovers the location of Milverton's safe, and that night he and Watson break into the house and to try and steal the letters. But Milverton arrives by walking into the room just in time. The two would-be burglars hide themselves behind a sofa, listening to Milverton and a woman, the maid-servant to another potential victim, discuss his next crime. Except she is not a maid-servant. She is one of the wily blackmailer's former victims, come to avenge the husband who died broken-hearted of a broken heart after Milverton revealed her darkest secret. She produces a gun and fires, and Milverton falls dead to the ground. She then stamps on his face and leaves, while Holmes and Watson emerge from their hiding place, open the safe, and remove its entire contents and throw it into the fire. They escape after doing so, but they are seen the following day. Lestrade visits 221B Baker Street to request Holmes' assistance in solving the mystery of Milverton's death. He delivers a description of one of the men wanted for murder. Laughingly, Holmes submits that it might be a description of Watson, but he turns down Lestrade's entreaties. The fact that I knew this fellow Milverton, I considered him one of the most dangerous men in London, and I think there are certain crimes for which the law cannot touch, and which therefore private revenge are justifiable. I've made up my mind that he will not help Lestrade. This serves as a reminder that Holmes was not created to uphold the law, but to uphold justice. And there is a frequent difference between the two in the entire Sherlock Holmes oeuvre. Giving the loathing in which Holmes holds Milverton and the result or the end result of this story, I thought it would be a good story to look at ethical lessons for the compliance professional. Number one, respect for privacy. This story highlights the importance of respecting individuals' privacy rights. Obviously, Milverton is a notorious blackmailer who profits from exploiting the private affairs of others. Holmes acknowledges the significance of privacy and seeks to protect his clients from such violations. But bring that forward to 2024 and data privacy under GDPR. Maybe one day that will come to the United States. Maybe not. But if you're doing business in the UK or the EU, you certainly have to comply with those laws. Number two, confidentiality. Holmes maintains strict confidentiality regarding his clients and the information they share with him. He understands the sensitivity of the matters at hand and ensures that his investigations do not compromise his client's confidentiality. Number three, the right to justice. As I mentioned at the end of the discussion of the story, this is not a story about bringing someone to the law. It's about the right to a different kind of justice. And it shows that Holmes and Watson are not averse to bending the law to pursue justice, and they ultimately work to bring Milverton to justice through legal means, even if he is killed by another. They recognize that everyone, regardless of their actions or character, is entitled to a fair trial and due process. Number four, ethical dilemmas. The story presents ethical dilemmas concerning the balance between the greater good and individual rights. Holmes and Watson grapple with the decision to break into Milverton's house to retrieve the incriminating evidence, ultimately justifying their actions as necessary for the greater good. Number five, professional integrity. Despite the morally ambiguous nature of some of his methods, Holmes maintains highest professional integrity in his work. He operates within his own moral code and ethical framework, ensuring that his actions align with his principles of justice and truth. Number six, consequence of actions. The story underscores the importance of considering the ethical implications and potential consequences of one's own actions. Holmes and Watson are aware of risks involved in confronting Middleton and proceed with caution, mindful of the potential fallout of their actions. This story prompts a reflection on ethical considerations such as privacy, confidentiality, justice, professional integrity, and ethical dilemmas, and of course, consequences for one's own actions. It serves as a reminder that every compliance professional must heed and listen to on the importance of conducting oneself ethically and in the pursuit of justice. The Compliance Podcast Network is sponsored this month by Ethico. Ethico is a leader for compliance champions like yourself with its ethics and compliance optimization system built to turn goals and guidelines into real ROI for your program. For more information and a special white paper, go to ethico.com/CPN. I hope you will join me through this entire series of short stories from the Return of Sherlock Holmes. If you're a Holmes fan or you enjoy analogizing to compliance, leadership, and ethics, this is the podcast series for you. I hope you will take the opportunity to reread one or perhaps all of the short stories. They're short reads and a lot of fun. I'm going to be taking a deep dive into each one of them, looking at leadership lessons, ethical lessons, and or compliance lessons from each one. If you're a Sherlock Holmes aficionado like myself, I'd love to visit with you about some of your favorite stories and perhaps record a podcast or two with you on them. So please contact me. You can reach me through the website of the Compliance Podcast Network. Adventures in Compliance is a special production of the Compliance Podcast Network. And as I mentioned, we are sponsored this month by Ethico. So I hope you will check out the Ethico white paper that's available through their special link on that we put in the show notes that I mentioned earlier. This is Tom Fox. I'm greatly looking forward to the return of Sherlock Holmes.